everyone, welcome to the final installment of my lesson series, Playing Within the Pool of Notes. If you're just joining us, please check out the link in the description below. It will send you to the rest of the videos in this series, as well as a purchasable PDF where you can get the music and the examples I cover in tab and standard notation with all the correct fingerings, as well as the chords. So what we're going to talk about in this final video is the way in which we can look at the different arpeggios factoring in with the pool of notes. So we've talked about how if we're in the key of G playing right or wrong, that we've got G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Those are unique notes in the key of G. Now, as we move through the different chords, that some are in the key of G and some are outside the key of G, we're going to kind of alter those notes. So as a quick review, we have an E chord to start the song off. We're going to play all the notes in the key of G except one. We're going to move the G up to a G sharp. So if we have like just a simple kind of G chord right here, instead of playing this G right here and going, I'm going to start on the G sharp, but play all the other notes the same. Right? To factor in for that E7 chord. When I get to the A7, which is the next chord in the song, I've got all the normal notes in G, except now I'm going to add in a C sharp, which is that unique note to A. That's the third. So again, if I'm playing a G kind of scale right here, I've got a normal G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. I'm going to alter that C to a C sharp and go. So it's really forcing me to know the notes in my keys as well as how they relate to the chords, okay? So that was what we focused on a lot in the previous video. So check that out if you haven't. In this one, we're gonna now just look at the arpeggios in it. So if I'm playing the melody to right or wrong, I've got this. Okay, as the first part. So that's covering the E and the A chord. So I've got this triad right here. I've got my E, right? I've got E, G sharp, and B, all next to my other notes in the key of G, right? Now all I do is alter for the G to G sharp, and then I can add in the triad, right? So I now kind of have a new kind of movement going where I'm skipping certain notes. I can go up or down, so. Right, so that's what I'm thinking. I'm combining all of my scalular or pool of notes there, and then throwing in that triad when I want to. So that's the basic idea there. When I get to the A, I'm thinking here's my arpeggio. I've got C sharp, E, G, A, but I want to add in the ninth, so I want to add in the B there. So now it's an A7 with a 9, and that's where that's coming from for me is I'm thinking of the melody, right? Because I'm going, right? A9 to A7. So I've got my arpeggio right there. So if I think of my notes around there in G with the C sharp, right? That's kind of what I have. Right? I can start here. Right? And that leads me into my D. So again, these are just kind of jumping off points to kind of change other than just playing, you know, note to note within kind of a scalar sequence or just kind of riffing off notes. You can now have like one direct line going up or down, right? So one more time on like an A. Now I'm at my D7. So I'm just going to take the same form I used for the E, right? I went and just move down a whole step. D, F sharp, A. And what's cool, you know, this is in the key of G already, so there's no new unique note. So it's all within it. So I might, you know, all right. Into my G. And then okay, so that's what's going on there. And then when I come down to my G, I can just play in the pool of G. I can play around with 6 arpeggios or triads. I've got a G triad right here. Got a 6th. Right? G there. That's kind of what we covered in the first lesson. So that's the sequence there. And then so I'm going to go, you know, some kind of G to some kind of E. Then I've got A minor to D7. So A minor, I can play all the D7 stuff, right? It's just the relative 5. So I might go into the A7, right? So to play it a little slower, I might do something like that's the E, and then I'm going to the A minor. So just working down my minor arpeggio. And then there's my D7. Another one. Into my A7. So again, A7 area. Then D7. Back to E, right? And I go through that sequence again. There's my B7. So what I'm looking there for the unique notes is the D sharp, and right, because my B7. So I've got D sharp, F sharp, A, C. So it's a flat 9 arpeggio. I can't do the C sharp because that's not in the melody. So I'm using the C there. So I've got a flat 9 arpeggio, which leads me back to the E chord. So, you know, a sequence like that, I might go. Okay, so that's kind of my basic thoughts of how I'm getting around and navigating these chord changes. So work on, you got from the first lesson, you're just playing freely within the notes, right? You've got the pool of notes and you're kind of thinking about what notes is changing per chord, right? And just kind of dropping that in when you can. The next kind of part, and part 2 of this series, was thinking more in terms of lines. So playing 6 to 8 eighth note lines, right? So they're a little longer, right? And that's really more working on just practicing kind of the scales, right? Or different ways of moving down the pool of notes. And one thing to say is when you practice this like as a scale, don't always start on the root note. That's the big thing. That's when your hands get locked up and you always kind of go back to one thing. Practice starting on different notes, up and down. And then lastly, like we talked about in this past lesson, we're now looking at the triads, the arpeggios, whether we want to extend it to the dominant 7th arpeggios or whatever they may be, to kind of create upward and downward motion that's not just linear. So experiment with adding all that into your playing, and I'll see you in our next lesson.